I have never made a video like this, so I guess we're going to be learning together. Now, I am a huge fan of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Originally, I had planned on making a few videos and, well, it's been many years since that point. But I've been trying to dual wield creating on the side while keeping up videos. I write, I draw, I make music. So I was wondering, well, how can I mix this to where you all are somewhat connected to the process? And that's where I got the premise of this video. Could I draw in Araki style? See, I believe that being able to do is when you truly have learned something. I don't have to read a recipe to know how to make some garlic butter naan, so my goal is to not only draw JoJo, but I also want to be able to draw without a reference. Now, some people believe that you should be always using a reference, and in most cases I agree, but the artist I aspire to be is one that has developed a large enough visual library in my brain to where I can pretty much draw whatever I want to with at least 75% accuracy to my intention. A better artist might have better execution on how to go about this, but you came to me, and I'm here to see how hard is it for the both of us. Unless you're already good, if that's the case, you sick monster. You're here to just watch me fail pretty much, but well, it's a good thing that I don't have shame. So what's the first step? In my time of learning things, I've learned that the best thing that you can do is admit that you know nothing and to look towards resources that everyone uses. So how are we going to do that for JoJo? Tutorials or direct exposure? Well, I think this depends on the person too. I've seen a lot of JoJo, so I think that with a reference, I can kind of get down a pretty good idea. That's how I made this Jodeci Poochie art. But I want to know how to do and how to start, and what's a better place than to find this information than the GoGo Discord. In there, we can see a whole bunch of creatives, illustrators, animators, writers, a whole bunch of hitters who are pillars of the JoJo art community. Well, at least I think so, and they're all in there. So I asked, and I was given a whole playlist. This is where I'd start. How to draw JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Now, in what I watched in the videos, the takeaways for me are be conscious of the shadows of the face and how easy you can turn this oval into a JoJo eye. And to go off script for a bit, because I am going to be putting some of the drawing on the screen, I will say that I already know a few things like, oh hey, you put these lines on the nose, you can kind of inflate the ear to an extent because of part 5 and how they did it. But how you truly want to go about it actually depends on which part. But back to the script. So what I was going to do first, this is a mock-up, and I'm going to build a guideline off an already existing image to make the process easier and to see if I understand it. Then once it's a thing that I can think about, I can do this and then use my imagination. This way I have something to pull from. Now, one thing I've never noticed before is the lack of definition on the eyelid shape. See, in my guidelines, I like to define the eyelid shape with this sort of trapezoid because it makes the face a bit more real, and it made me think and rethink about all the animation that I've seen. And yeah, I think the definition of an eyelid is something that turns an animated art style into a somewhat semi-realistic one. See, Satoshi Kon does eyelids, like the shape, but here with the earlier parts in JoJo, that black line is the eyelid. Not only wrong, but double wrong, because what I recorded I had to re-record because I figured out something twice. So that area where it seems like a bit of cartilage, this, what I thought was called the lid margin, is actually called the anterior lid border. Is it a part of it? Can it be all called the eyelid? Sure, but it's not the shield that I was talking about. This in specific is where, you put eyeliner, so that's why you see that highlight there. Now, let me not metagame through this because this is also a lot that I had figured out later, but yeah. And also, I think that this is for like a tip. Something that's really easy to help define the face is adding a shadow to the bridge of the nose and the arc of the eye, like sort of like that crater where your eye stays, because so many animated things do that. And this might not be the best thing for the JoJo style, but if you did want like a bit of a cheat code in terms of drawing, that is just like such an easy way of going about it. So I ended up finding another video too about drawing in the JoJo style because I wanted to see, is it possible to add an eyelid and other real features to the JoJo drawing while still retaining the art style and the exaggeration. And I had been using this image of Idris Elba, and I really had to think about it because, well, okay, how does a wider nose differ? And I think of this image of Poco Loco shows it the best, but I was originally looking at parts 1 through 6 mainly due to the anime. Plus, you know, I added the nostrils of part 5 while trying to keep it within the part 5 style. My goal is to keep the like accentuation and the exaggeration of the JoJo art style in semi-realism. Now for the eyes, I had went on the JoJo wiki and went through a whole bunch of characters. George Joestar, Darby, not Gamer Darby, and Eluzo had been the ones that made me think, okay, I think this works for Idris, because the first two have the shape that had been similar, and I think I could use some of the hatching being a form of shading for those that don't know, and Eluzo showing an example of the eyelid means like, okay, if I put this all together in my head, maybe this can work. Well, did I make sense of it all? I feel like I'm close, but I can definitely see my current issues. Firstly, the JoJo style isn't exactly pronounced here. It kind of looks like it, but with the correct cell shading, I think this could be a temporary character, not even a tertiary character, but someone that just shows up like, hey, and then you go on with your day. Next, I know that while even if this is a mock-up, I didn't make the efforts on shading because, well, for one, I didn't know how to shade JoJo, nor do I know how to shade. And I was kind of scared to try in the time lapse. And also another thing about getting better is admitting fear, because that's one of the earliest steps to getting past it. So let's try to modify this image. If I keep the eye folds that gave him character, but replace one with a singular line, make the canvas a bit bigger so it's easier to draw, open the eyes up a bit for the one time since this is a mock-up, add the JoJo eyelashes as accents to his features, and I guess use the cloud brush for graying in his hair. That because it kind of gives me, like, I don't have any hair brushes, but I think that this gives us a pretty much finished mock-up. I'm fine with this because, you know, if I do spend too much time on it, then I won't get to work on my actual piece. The next goals I have are to push the JoJo features even further, but also keep semi-realism going. I also want to color like this is an anime screenshot. And what does that mean? Okay, we're gonna try to mix parts 5, 6, and 7 to achieve what JoJo is known for. And if we're being real, JoJo has had so many eras in terms of art style for both manga and anime. So my only thing is that I have to make it as JoJo as I can while not losing humanity. So how do I shade like the JoJo anime? You understand how dumb the path I went about this was, because I knew I had seen a solid speed draw for this already when Polnareff, he was made to look like Gojo. Anything in the reverse image search, because, you know, it's been destroyed by Google Lens for one. But two, the person I was looking for was right there. I was gonna make a tweet trying to find them, but I ended up finding out like, oh, okay, maybe if I just remove the not in the name, it's like, oh, okay, that's where they are right there. So in this video, we have cells and then airbrushing the lights and some extra shadows in the shadow, but I'm not really sure too much about everything, you know, still figuring it out. And I think I see them airbrushing midtones as another part of shadows. And I know that there's Gaussian blur being used, but I'm just not sure when. But that seems good enough to me. So let's try to get started on this finished piece. This video was extremely helpful to me because while drawing and trying to figure out the pose I wanted to do, I found out a sort of cheat code where all I have to do is draw an upside down triangle and my other hacks, if that's how you're supposed to call it, you know, to use the shoulder to head distance as motion lines. How I'd explain it is, imagine those drawings of the birds back then where you just pinch the middle of a curved line. You know, you can do that, make a triangle, and then boom, you have a torso in motion. But this is not an escape way of just like, oh, hey, let me avoid anatomy. I'm very familiar with anatomy. My issue is a lot of the time is just drawing it proportionally. And I don't think that I would have got this on my own anytime soon, because I think that this was the most meticulous I've ever had to be in my self-teaching journey. My issue now is that I had the pose, it took time, and I didn't realize that, hey, this video is about drawing in the JoJo style, not the JoJo style plus character design. And at that point, that's where I realized, yeah, you know what? I kind of screwed up. This is this is gonna be rough. Now I have to make up something, and I already spent a good amount of time just trying to figure out the style. And I don't want to disclose how many days it took, but it's just in general, this whole video it did take a bit. Now there's so much to consider, but while writing this, I did realize how wild it sounded, because as a kid, if someone told you, hey, go make up a character for an anime and you get to show it to the class and yada yada yada, I'd be more than happy, because as a kid, you just go and move like you're the GOAT, because you don't have these thoughts that stop you from true mental freedom. So you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna pick an album, I'm gonna pick a song, I'm gonna pick a thing, and put them all together. And with all of this, I could feel the design coming to life, but the biggest hiccup I found myself in was choosing the color palette and shading. And I realized, man, it's sort of like that one manga panel where you're on a mountain, and then in the distance, I think it's Vagabond, and you just see another big mountain. I think in terms of art, this assignment was the final piece on me knowing how to draw well enough. I think truly, if I do spend enough time on an art piece, I can get down to at least 65% of what I wanted to do. The issue is how much time is spent. And now my other issue is the other pillars of art, where it's like, do I know what colors I want to use for this? And do I have to draw the planes of this character to know how do I want to shade it and the light and where it's coming from? And I don't think I truly figured it out, especially not in this video, because you really have to think about it. Araki had been building this style for years and years. And I'm just happy to know that, hey, look, you know what? This is a test. This is a test, and not like Diablo. Like, this is a test. And I do think that with enough time, I can be better. But for now, all I can do is try my best. So I think that while I can't necessarily be on the same level as, a finished Araki piece and the Araki style and all, I know that I can do as good as I can for me. And I think that's going to be enough. Because, see, that's just the point of all these art tests and all that. You have to test yourself just like a test in the real world and evaluate and be like, hey, look, you know what? This I messed up on, but I'm going to write down what I did and what I messed up on. And in the next time that I get this down, I will make another video and see, hey, look, y'all, I actually did get it better. But for now, this is what I got. And if y'all have your own versions and all that type of stuff, put it on wherever social media you are. I don't really know where you're supposed to put art stuff on anymore. But I'd say that I actually do really like my character. And I do think that I'm going to continue to work at the styles that I want, but I also want to go back to JoJo every time, because it's a good test. Even though I don't really see JoJo, the art style, affecting the art style that I want. But I think that introducing a style that you're not looking forward to adding to your thing is really helpful, because, hey, look, I don't really care to paint, but learning painting can actually help the rest of my art in general. And something like, oh, hey, people like, oh, I don't want to do 3D. But hey, maybe 3D in general would help your art also. I feel like you have to encompass all types of things and not just what you like to truly be able to grow. And that's what I want, to grow. So I hope that this video is inspiration for you all. And if this doesn't apply to you because it's like, hey, I don't draw, well, this can apply to pretty much everything, You gotta watch some basketball players to be a point guard, and maybe you want to watch some power forwards to get an idea of like, hey, look, how do they get that touch? How do they get this backing down stuff? You know, yada yada yada, to add to your game. I think to be is to kind of be all, but not all good. You know, don't max out everything in the skill tree, but it's helpful to put some other stuff into other stats instead of maxing out in just one category. So yeah, I've actually feel really happy to make this. I don't know. It's one of those feelings like I really do feel happy about it, and there's no other feeling than creating, I think, at least for me. But yeah. Thank you all for watching. Hopefully I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, peace out, stay inspired, stay moving, and Godspeed.